Hello, storytellers. Marigold here. There's been a little bit of chatter about Willow Creek and how just about every AI out there provides you with information about Willow Creek. So, Lynn Jordan, Nicole, and a handful of other users of the AIWC Discord set up a little group for Write With Me. Now, this group of individuals have come up with their own little story about Willow Creek, the winery, flower shop, the coffee shop, maybe it's the ER room, anything dealing with Willow Creek within the Willow Creek community. We are considering this a shared world, but each individual who is writing a body of work will then generate their concept. They will flesh it out, create their characters, their outline, as well as their story beats, and then generate prose, as well as writing additional content within the body of work to represent their Willow Creek body. I was a little curious as to what ChatGPT4 would actually come up with if I gave Chat some really solid information on Willow Creek in general. So, what I want to go ahead and put down here is I want to ask it to take a look at the information that we already have inside of our Willow Creek Discord. If you actually come into our Willow Creek Discord, you'll see that we have a little bit of information in here. It says, Welcome to Willow Creek Shared World. It lets people know that they can dive into the enchanting realm of Willow Creek, where creativity knows no bounds. As I stated before, this is a shared world. I want you to think of it as your canvas, and we're all going to craft stories. So, anybody who is interested in participating and having fun with this Willow Creek little Write With Me area or writing group within AIWC, which stands for AI Writers Connection, feel free to join the Discord and then look for the writing groups, which you will find us under Willow Creek right here. I had some questions about Willow Creek, and if I scroll all the way down to the bottom, you see here that we have a couple of people who are finishing up their Willow Creek body of work. And Lynn Jordan, who is doing a Write With Me segment, she is one of the ambassadors of Pseudo Write. She has been filming a 4-day series with Pseudo Write Story Bible, and her project consists of Willow Creek. And if I'm not mistaken, her Willow Creek is going to be a marriage of convenience, and her character is set inside of a floral shop. So in her book, she already has Willow Creek Floral, which is at the edge of town. And this is where Willow Creek, see, there's a Willow Creek Cafe. And she said that she's going to have another book with a hero who owns a vineyard and a winery outside of town. Now, she's saying that she might actually bring in her Bigfoot family who lives outside of the town into the woods. And she's telling people to please add your own locations. And that way, if other people want to make reference, they can. But again, this is a shared world. So if you are going to write in this shared world, keep in mind that if you are going to self publish this body of work, you will be publishing that under your own KDP account. Or if you're going wide, you can do that under Amazon, Draft to Digital, or any other vendor of your choice. You are not tied down to any one specific vendor. So let's take a look. I'm wanting to see exactly what ChatGPT4 will come up with. I copied all of the transactions and the little chats within Willow Creek, and I want to know what ChatGPT4 makes of the conversations. So I'm going to talk to Chat a little bit here. I'm letting Chat know that I'm inside the shared world of Willow Creek and that I want to know what it knows about the town. What do you know about the city slash town of Willow Creek. And I'm going to ask it to go ahead and use the following information. And let's see what it does with that. Now, I do want to make sure that there's not anything additional that maybe I need to add to it. While this is producing some information, I'm going to see what else I might find inside. Make sure that there's not maybe a document that I might maybe need to take a look at. So I'm going to go in and look at a shared world document because I want to see what it might have there. And as you can see, I just downloaded Willow Creek Shared World. And while I'm in there, let's take a look at Willow Creek. So it looks like there's 1,300 words that have a little bit more information on Willow Creek. And this is actually one of the documents that is housed there. First, let's see what it has come up with. So, chat said, based on the information provided about Willow Creek, it seems to be a dynamic, collaborative shared world created within the AI Writers Connection community. So, it's letting us know about the concept, the setting, the story elements, and inspirations. And it's giving us some of that interactivity and expansion, story development, shared world. But let's go ahead and give it that additional information and see where it goes from there. I'm going to ask it to go ahead and hold this information too. Please store this information as well. And then I'm going to give you a framework for my story concept. So let's let it hold on to this for now, and we'll see what it comes up with. Oh, it's going to create an image. That's interesting. I did not ask it to do that, but you know what? That's okay. What I am going to do is grab a prompt. So, one of the things that I did back, say, September timeframe, I actually created a prompt. And this prompt is specifically for Willow Creek. And I've not been inside of this specific prompt since that time frame. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this prompt, and I will make it available for anybody who might want to play around with this prompt. I'll make it available in the comments section of the YouTube. Oh, look, that's cute. We have our little Bigfoot or Yeti here. We have trees in the background. We have our little community over here. So we have some of the different shops. So that's cute. Now, let's see. I want it to go ahead and create a story for me. And I'm going to ask it to specifically write some content for my story. So let's take a look at what I maybe want to add in there. Now, I know that I've asked it to wrap quite a bit of information about my story, and I want it to ensure that it has Willow Creek content. So we're going to take a look at some of this information. But first, let me go ahead and put an instruction prompt right here, which says, write out the following story concept synopsis, filling in all the bracketed information such as the series name, the series tagline, the characters' first and last names, and such. And I'm asking it to generate it in a non-JSON format. Now we have a title, we have a series name. Now we already know that it should have something with Willow Creek. We haven't decided a definitive name yet. It could just simply be Willow Creek. At this point, the group has not voted on a name yet, but at some point we'll have a poll within AIWC for people to vote on a specific name and see what name we end up with. Now, I want mine to be a blend of history, legends, and supernatural secrets. Now, if you write contemporary and you don't want any type of supernatural or paranormal event, then you don't have to write that. Write what you are comfortable with. So let's take a look at what this actually produces. So it's given me the title of Shadows of Willow Creek Legends of the Shifting Shadows. Now, this is an urban fantasy romance. And let's see it. Introduction Shadows of Willow Creek begins with an intriguing hook that invites readers into the world of Willow Creek. We have an introduction, we have a setting, we have a small town, a supernatural community, we have a tone, a mood, we have main characters, we have an inciting event, and it's given me all the information, the midpoint, the pitch points, the revelation, the conflict. Now, one of the things that I might want to do is take this information and maybe I want to wrap season one up inside of maybe my monster romance. Sorry, guys, I had a little interruption. Husband came back and is cooking dinner tonight. So took a little break to find out what he was cooking, which is going to be grilled chicken with some rosemary seasoning on it. And I have no idea what the sides are, but I will find out later. So, getting back to the story, I definitely want to wrap one of my other templates, specific information about Willow Creek. And I think I want to do something that might be geared more toward, let's see, maybe do I want it to be a gothic thriller, a haunting? Do I want it to be a family saga? What kind of story do I want? Now, I could do something with a monster romance or a gothic monster romance, or I could have a kidnapping. Maybe there's a lost civilization in there. I could even have a little mafia thriller inside of there, but I'm leaning toward maybe using, I think I want to use my monster one. As you can see, I pulled up my thriller template. So I have everything from academic to adventure, alien invasion, alternative history. So I have all these different areas that I can pick from, but I keep going back to thinking that maybe I want to do the monster one. Now, I could also do genetic engineering and have something get loose from a research center. Here's the gothic one. We have a haunting thriller. And I have the kidnap, lost civilization. There's the mafia, medical thriller. We have a military thriller. But again, I think I want to do the monster. So let me come over here and grab my little prompt here. And I'm going to ask it to go ahead and wrap all this information with the Willow Creek content that it currently has. So let me go ahead and copy this. And I'm going to come back here. Now, before I give it or feed it this prompt, I want to ask if it has layered all this information into my town and to give me a breakdown of the different shops or locations within my storyline for Willow Creek. Please give me a list of places, businesses, and locations inside of Willow Creek. And let's see what that gives me. Now, I can also ask if there's any specific type of maybe lore that I need to know about. So we have Mystic Brew Coffee Shop, we have a Shifter's Refuge, we have Willow Creek Courthouse, Enchanted Antiques, we have a Hidden Grove, we have Willow Creek Museum of History and Lore. That could be cool. We have the Whispering Pines Inn. Ooh, there's a shop that specializes in herbs. There's a Crystal Cave. Now that's cool. We have a forest or Forest and Heart Vineyard. I think that was what Lynn was talking about. And any of these could be renamed depending on what people want to call their specific body of work or their towns within their body. Now that I have that, I want to ask for some lore of Willow Creek. Give me some lore or give me the background story and lore of Willow Creek. And I'm going to let it know that I'm wanting to write something with paranormal. So I'm going to give the LLM permission to use paranormal events. My urban fantasy should have humans and supers. Now, I wanted to uphold the masquerade. I don't want all humans to know, but I want to know what kind of backstory that the LLM is going to give me. That way I can massage it into what I want. But I want to know from everything that it has already been fed from all the other users, I want to know what I can do within the confines of this project to be able to build my body of work too. Now, it does here that there are a few humans in Willow Creek who are aware of the masquerade. Now, I might want to know who those individuals are so that we can have maybe some static characters that everybody can write about. So let's find out. So, as I stated here, since this is a shared world, give me a list of static characters, who they are, what they do, and where they live inside of Willow Creek. Now, again, this static cast of characters can be reused over and over again by other people. They never change. They are just the same character that they are each time that somebody writes about them. Now, let's see, in the description, so, in the description of these people, I need to know what they look like. I need their age. And I also need to know also what information should each author of this shared world know about these characters. Note, authors will use these characters in their books. These characters don't grow, they are static, such as a point of contact, so maybe it's somebody in the museum that can provide lore information. And I might even state that. Now, that could also be a museum worker. Maybe it could even be the librarian. Let's see, our local, let's see, who else can we have there? What if we have maybe a conspiracy theorist? Somebody who thinks that maybe something more is going on? So let's see what that will give us. And I can actually share this link with people so that others who are interested in seeing what's going on here, we can take a look. Oh, look, Evelyn Eve Archer is the librarian. So Evelyn is a pretty common name that you will often find. Let's see, Samuel Green, he is a curator. And let's see, Evelyn is 50 and Samuel is in his 60s. Luna Martinez is the Mystic Brew owner. She's in her 30s and she runs the coffee shop. And then we have the local theorist. He's in his 40s. And then the antique shop owner, Grace. We have Benjamin, the town historian. So any of these individuals could be somebody static that people can go to find out information. And what authors should know about static nature, these characters do not undergo any significant change or development. They're pretty consistent. So, what, for instance, Benjamin, if somebody goes to Benjamin, he's always going to be an elderly, older man in his 70s that has a wealth of knowledge. He has that kind demeanor. He is a storyteller, wise. He's deeply connected to both the human and supernatural world. And let's see, he is like a living encyclopedia of Willow Creek. So he knows everything from the mundane to the supernatural. And he's usually found at the Historical Society or giving tours around town. So this is an individual that people can go to when they need research. They can always say that Ben provides them with information. So these are static characters. Again, they're not going to change. They're not going to be a huge focus in the book other than providing information about the town. Now, while authors can add a bit of flavor to their interaction with these characters, again, their core attributes, appearance, and roles need to be consistent throughout the actual story. So, again, these characters are static and they will not change. So now I am going to go and let me grab my prompt again. So I'm going to ask to use my prompt here. But first, before I do that, let me make sure that I turn off my custom instruction that talks about my story beat creation. And right now, I just want to take a look at my synopsis. So, what I want it to do is to wrap all that information in. So I'm telling it to please wrap all Willow Creek information we discussed into my framework, then to write out the following concept. Now let's see what it does from here. Now remember, I went ahead and combined it with my monster thriller series, and it's letting me know that now it's called Shadows of the Unseen. And the silence of the worlds and the deadliest threats are those you can't see. So let's see. It's not exactly what I want. So I'm going to tell the LLM no, you didn't follow direction. I want you to add the monster framework to that of Willow Creek. So what I'm asking is, I said, no, you didn't follow direction. I want you to add the monster framework to that of Willow Creek. It's an urban fantasy, not dystopian, and to create a synopsis following the format given. Note, this is a monster romance located in the shared world of Willow Creek. So I need a protag, a love interest, and an antagonist. Now I can have a make that a real person and a force. And let's see what it does. Now, why did I ask it to make it a real person, the antagonist, as well as a force? Because a force can be maybe the gates of hell breaking open because this individual, the antagonist, has opened it up or opened a seal leading to hell. Again, I don't know where the story is going yet. I have to decide what direction I want to take it. But I wanted to take that monster element and mix it with Willow. Here we go. Heart of the Hidden. This is a monster romance series in Willow Creek. In the shadows of Willow Creek, love and danger lurk in equal measure. Again, it is an urban fantasy monster romance. The tone is romantic, mysterious, intense. Themes are forbidden love, identity, and the coexistence of worlds. So the setting is the mystical town of Willow Creek, balancing between everyday life and the hidden supernatural elements. We have the backdrop, the culture, we have unique elements. Again, there's our tropes, we have our motifs, we have the interplay of light and darkness, symbols of duality of the human and supernatural world. We also have symbolism as monsters as metaphors for fear of the unknown and the complexities of love, ruins, and ancient sites. Now, one of the things that's interesting to me is that people identify monsters as being the one that's evil. What if in this story, the so called monsters are actually the good guys? Maybe some of the humans are the antagonists. Maybe there's antagonists on both sides of the human and the supernatural world that are bad. And maybe you find some good monsters and some good humans. I like to play with that duality on both sides. Let's see. Amidst the town of Willow Creek, a human and a mysterious supernatural being find love. Now, is that mysterious supernatural being? I know it's a supernatural entity, but is it some kind of a changeling? Is it a demon, a vampire, a werewolf? I don't know what kind of being this is yet, so I'm going to ask. Let's see, vampire, lupine. warlock, elemental, demon, what? Maybe even an angel. So we know that our main character is Sarah Jennings. She's an adventurer. She's an innocent dreamer. Her goal is to protect her love and bridge the gap between human and supernatural worlds. She grew up in Willow Creek, was fascinated by the town's legends, unaware of the true nature of super. So she grew up there, loved all the lore, but didn't realize that there was a whole other side to Willow Creek that she never saw. So here is our stranger. Let's see, Luke Donovan. But is that our love interest? So let's ask. And notice how I'm going through the synopsis or this early concept where I find something that I might have a question about. I'm already typing my information down just so that I don't forget. This process works for me. It may not work for other people, but it's definitely the way I like to do it. Also, well, we'll get to more information about Luke in a little bit. Now, here's our force, the human antagonist, a town local bent on uncovering the truth, the supernatural force. And I think we need to make sure we will need full names, first and last, of any and all characters. So let's see. Narrative devices, foreshadowing twist, recurring elements, red herring. Let's see, an apparent safe haven, misleading information about Luke. So we'll definitely need to flesh this information out. And let's see, Luke's confrontation with the antagonist revealing deep secrets of Willow Creek. Don't know what those secrets are yet, but we will flesh that out. Sarah's inner conflict about her love for supernatural beings. Let's see. Here's some of the unspecified, or let's see, structure. The unified introduction to Sarah's life in Willow, early signs of Luke's supernatural nature. Again, we don't know what kind of super he is yet. We don't know if he can turn invisible. We don't know if he is an elemental of some kind, an undying. I don't know any of that. So that is something that we're going to flesh out and find out about. So let's find out what it's going to give us here. Now, one of the things that I'm going to want to do is evaluate the synopsis. Now, I know that it's vague right now, and we are going to flesh that out, but I want to make sure that we're starting with enough information that I can begin to piece the different elements together. So, yes, Luke is the love interest. He is a forest elemental, guardian of the natural balance in Willow Creek, and he conceals his supernatural identity under the guise of a regular townsperson. So, I guess he has some type of glamour that conceals himself. So, I'm going to want to know about that. How does Luke conceal his supernatural identity? How old is he? What does he look like? Let's see what that says. Now, keep in mind, here are some of our static characters right here. We have a human antagonist, Robert. He's skeptical and fearful of the supernatural world. And maybe there's a reason for it. So here it talks about he's driven by a desire to expose and eradicate the supers from Willow Creek, stemming from a personal vendetta. Now, what is that vendetta? I don't know what that is. So give me some examples oops, of the personal vendetta that Robert has. Did he lose the love of his life to a super? Did his friend die and he blames supers? Did the super community not save a loved one of his? So I want to know more about him. Did he lose the love of his life to a super? Did his friend die and he blamed supers? Did the super community not save a loved one of his? Did he witness something as a kid or a teen that drove him to act out in the way that he is now or to have that personal vendetta? And I want to know more about that. So let's take a look. We know that Donovan, let's see, his appearance. To the human eye, he appears entirely human. He uses his elemental abilities to adjust his appearance, ensuring nothing overtly reveals his true nature. We know that he adopts a lifestyle and behavior that's typical of Willow Creek so that he can blend in. He's known as that nature enthusiast or conservationalist, and that explains his deep connection to the forest. And he also exercises strict control over his elemental power, using them only in secrecy. But what are his powers? Now, I'm sure it has something to do with growth if he is in a forest, but I want to see what the LLM has to say about that. And if he is a guardian, should be really in tuned with the earth or Gaia, ensuring that everything is balanced there. So that should be interesting to see. So he's tall, athletic, he has graceful movements. He has deep green eyes that reflect the colors of the forest. Okay, I'm okay with that. His hair is a dark brown, kind of tousled and windswept. His skin bears stubble. He has that earthy tone to him. He has that rugged handsomeness. Now, his age is difficult to define in human years or terms, and he looks to be in his 30s. Let's see, his lifespan and aging process are vastly different from humans, and we could actually dig into that further as we go in. So he makes sure that he keeps hold of his appearance because he doesn't want anybody to know that he's a super. So let's see with Robert. Lost love. So it could be any of these. So he could have a lost love to a super, friend's mysterious death, as we stated, family tragedy, ignored by the supers, childhood trauma. So again, any of these could drive him forward. Let's see. I want to go with number three. For Robert, let's go with number three. And let's see, what are Luke's powers? So we have this information to decide on for Robert. I do want to go with number three, which is the family tragedy. And I want to know more about it. So maybe a family member, as I stated, maybe his grandmother, his sister, somebody. So let's see. He has a vendetta against the supers in Willow Creek, stems from a painful incident involving his grandmother, whom he was really close to. She fell gravely ill under mysterious circumstances that seem beyond normal medical explanation. Now, what would be interesting is that what if he thinks that the supers made her sick, but actually she was a super herself? And because she denied that half of her because she wanted to be human and live in the human world, maybe that's what she took ill with. Or maybe there's a virus that's sweeping through and maybe she caught some kind of a virus that's really bad for supers. I don't know yet. I haven't made that determination yet, but definitely is something to explore. But now with his grandmother passing away, he that could really propel him into thinking poorly towards supers, and maybe he was young enough where people told him it was all part of his imagination, and he imagined everything. So now everybody's doubting and telling him that he's not all there, but yet he feels that he knows what he saw. So we can definitely write that into the story. So let's say, now, if this is true, if Robert's grandmother was a super and she denied that part of her, then that would mean that Robert's parent is actually half super, which would make him a quarter. And he may not even know that. So that could be interesting. Do we want it to be maybe his father? So let's see what that does. So here it's letting us know that he was really impacted by the loss of his grandmother. And maybe his grandmother told him all kinds of stories. So that would definitely open the door. And I do like that the realization that he carries super blood could lead to an intense inner conflict for him later on. And then his father, completely unaware of it, maybe his blood is completely dormant, but something wakes up in Robert. That could be really interesting. He could discover latent abilities. So that could be something interesting for the book. Now, let's go ahead and evaluate what we have at this point. So, I'm going to use one of my prompts for evaluating the current synopsis, looking at the strengths and weaknesses of the concept as a whole. And again, I will go ahead and put these prompts out there, or I will share this link. So let's take a look. And I think it is just thinking. So here it is going to go ahead and give me the strengthened synopsis for the Heart of the Hidden, which is our running name for it at this time. It did go ahead and give me Sarah's age, which is 28. If I want her to be older, I can make her older. I can make her younger. That is completely up to me. Now, she is the adventurer. She's compassionate, creative. She's really curious. Now, I want to know what she does. What does she do for a living? Let's find out what she does for a living. And she's over trusting. Let's find out what she does. She could even be a dog walker. She could be a dog walker slash sitter. I don't know. So let's see what she is. Now, her actually being a hairdresser could come in handy for maybe Robert needs a haircut. If she is a dog walker or sitter, she could come in contact with him in the forest. Interior design, maybe she is called in to maybe redesign something and maybe that puts them both in touch with each other. I think that could be an interesting way for them to meet. And let's see. Oh, we have a firefighter. That's interesting. Now, what if she was a firefighter? That could be interesting if she was called out to maybe investigate a fire. Maybe she's investigating a series of fires in the forest. So let's see. Now, it said that she is a florist, but I don't want to do that because Lynn has a florist, and I'd rather my girl maybe be the firefighter. That could really put her right in the middle of working with him, and maybe she suspects him at some point. Okay, so she could even think Luke is the love interest. So let's see. I do like her investigating. Now, we've already gone in, we've added a little bit more detail. Now I want to go to step 3. I need a revised character list so that I know that I have all of my key players in place. Now, the information that I'm feeding the LLM right now, it's keeping track of, which means that when it comes time for me to start writing my specific story beats, that this is going to help enhance that information. So here we know that Robert is the one who is actually is the instigator of the fire, but we need to figure out, let's see, it's to expose and eradicate the supers from Willow Creek. He's trying to drive them away because of his vendetta. So he wants to find out where all of them are and he just wants to get rid of them. It'd be interesting if the same sickness that plagued his grandmother, if he gets sick with it, and then he actually needs the supers to heal him. Now, that would mean that our antagonist could end up being redeemed later on, but we could still have that antagonistic force to push things to that darker side because maybe he unleashes something, maybe he partners with that darker entity, maybe a demon, and then he's stuck in limbo. That could be interesting. Now, maybe he gets sick because he enters in a deal with a demon. So let's see how that works. So I'm stating that Robert, like his grandmother, takes ill, and the only ones who can help him are the supers. And maybe the reason why he got sick is because he entered into a deal with a demon to grant his wish, which was to expose and get rid of supers, but that backfires because we all know if you make a wish, it just does not work for you. And maybe the grandmother's wish was to become human. And in the process, the demon said, okay, you're human, and here now you're diseased because you no longer have your super abilities or magic to keep your body healthy. So that could be interesting. So here we have part of the hidden becomes a tale of unintended consequences, redemption, and the intricate balance between supernatural and human worlds. Now, let's see, because without her magic, so let's see how that works. Now, what I am going to want to do is get that updated character list so that I have that information. So we have not only Robert's choice and consequence, but the choice and consequence of his grandmother. And maybe that suppression of her magic passed on to her heirs. And maybe with what happens in him getting sick and stuff, maybe somehow he unleashes the magic and then gets sick. So once this is done, we're going to write a major character list for this concept, ensuring that the characters have like their first and last names, their ages, identity, any ensemble cast. Now, I also want to have occupations because I think that'll help because then we can place who our key players are. So we're going to take a look at this character list. Now, one of the things that I like to do is after I get my character list, I then like to look at that, see who my characters are, and see if I need to add anybody in addition to what's already there. And then after I make those changes, I want to know their backstories. Now, slowly we've been giving people backstories. The main ones have been, say, Robert, and Luke has a little bit of backstory. We don't know very much about Sarah, so we're definitely going to have to flesh out what her backstory is. And let's take a look at Sarah. We know that she is courageous. She is a quick decision maker. She struggles with trust, she has an emotional vulnerability, but we don't know why yet. We don't know what has happened. Now, we know that she wants to uncover the truth behind all of those forest fires. And I think that's a good thing for her to do. Now, could she have lost a loved one in a forest fire, or could she have lost somebody to a fire and it made her want to become maybe a firefighter? And we can definitely state that. Let's say as a child, so we're going to say that as a young child, Sarah was in a bad fire when she accidentally started when playing with her father's lighter. The fire burned her father and her. So he bears the scars of those. And let's say that her mother died, and maybe her being a firefighter is one way that she feels that she can redeem herself by saving others. So that gives a little bit of a backstory to her. Now, I do have Sarah's our protagonist. We have our love interest, Luke. We have Robert, who is the antagonist. Now, the one thing that I don't have is the antagonistic force. I need more information about the I need more information about the demon. Let's see what that does. Now, I know that we have the sage is Evelyn. She's our static character. We know that the museum, he is also a static character. So we have a few static characters in here and then a few extras. Now, the rebel is interesting, helps Sarah with vehicle issues. So that's good. Grace, that is the antique shop owner. Maybe she has some type of little trinket or something that helps to protect Sarah. I don't know. Could be interesting. Leo is a colleague of Sarah's. Her revised backstory, it talks about her as a child starting the fire, the lasting impact. Here I'm giving my characters some backstory. I need to know who my characters are, what drives them forward, so that I know how the world that I'm building impacts those individuals. Now, she finds it hard to trust, and maybe she feels that she's not doing enough. Even if she saves a life, she still feels responsible for the death that she actually created by playing with the lighter. So, that in itself would really weigh heavy on her if the fires that she's investigating are being started. It could bring up old feelings for her. So, I got twist. Now we do have our demon, and he shifts form. So we could have him looking like a very charismatic man and somebody that everybody really likes in the city and stuff. And he's an ancient demon, and he weaves in and out of human history. And he thrives on chaos and manipulation. Maybe he finds enjoyment from it and feeds on it. And it's just a any time that he sees chaos and just destruction and is able to find people that he could feed off of their fear and their despair, maybe that's what he's after. So I can work with that. Now, he grants wishes as a tool for manipulation, and he twists the desires of the humans who actually make the wish. He grants a wish that comes with a price, often a soul or a service that the wisher must fulfill. So that could be really interesting because, as it says, it's sowing discord. Now, let's see, we have more of the backfiring of wishes. So we have all of this set in place. So we have this information now. Let's go ahead and see if there is additional backstory that we need to take a look at. Again, I'm asking for it again because I want to make sure that I'm on the right track with the LLM. And I didn't get everybody's backstory, but I want to see what backstories are important. So here I have two responses. And as you can see, response one and response two, the LLM is going to want to know which choice I feel is better. And then it's usually whenever that happens, I then have to tell it, yes, I like it, or no, I don't like it. So let's see what it does. So here, accidentally started a fire, the death of her mother. So far, I'm liking this content on the right. Occupation, I've got the occupation here. He is the force elemental. And so I do have this information. I still prefer the information on the right. Has our occupation, the backstory, gives us a little bit more information there. We have information about Willow Creek. Now, interesting enough, I have Luna and Jamie here, but I only have two people here. So I like a mix of the two. So I find that interesting. But let's see if Luna and Jamie are further down. So here's Willow, here's the myth. And then we have the fires. I like a combination of the two, but I'm going to pick this one. But I want to tell it that I like a combination of the two, but I don't want to thumb it down. So I can't really give it information on a thumb down, but I can here. Okay, so let's submit that feedback. And now that I have that information, I'm going to go ahead and play with my beats. And I want to have specific story beats. I don't want this to be an overly long body of work. So I'm going to make this maybe 21 chapters of 10 beats each. So let's see. So I'm going to come up here, and here, step 5. In this step, you can indicate how many. So I'm going to remove this. And here, I want it to be 25 chapters or 21. We'll do 21. And this is going to be an urban fantasy. So it is an urban fantasy monster romance set in Willow Creek story. And we will do this. Each auth should be the protagonist, and then the love interest POV are the even chapters. I'm going to want 10 beats right here. So make sure you're changing these, by the way. And you'll notice that I make changes frequently on some of these. Sometimes I will add more or less information. So make sure you're doing that. And if you have a list that has a 1, 2, 3 here instead of ABC, and if you are using pseudo-write story engine, make sure that you're changing these to A, B, and C, only because you don't want to mess up your generation within story and within Story Bible. So let's take a look. We have the setting and location. I'm going to want that also, my descriptor words. Let's go ahead and see what that gives us. Now, the other thing I have to correct here, I want 10, but I'm also going to ask it, I want the chapter number, and I want the character POV name here. So let's go ahead and send that off. So I'm going into chapter 1 is Sarah's POV because she is my protagonist. And it starts at Monday, 8 a.m. Now, if you are generating inside of any LLM and you have like 8 a.m., 11 a.m., and you don't want to have the sun is shining or the sunshine is filtering through the window. If you don't want any of that, then be very specific about how you want your opening. Now, take a look at beat one, where it says that she reflects on the recent surge. Anytime you have a beat that's telling you to reflect or to think about something or contemplating something or generating a plan and it's really vague, that does not make for solid beats. Your prose, when generated, will be ambiguous and the LLM might actually take your story in a direction that you really don't want to go. So you want all of your beats to be action. So I am actually going to grab another prompt. So bear with me just a moment to go in and grab a prompt. Now, why do I want to have beefier beats? I want something that's going to have more structure to it. I want to make sure that my body of work has enough to it that it has action, that it shows the action and states exactly what it is that I am looking for. So I'm going to use an active story beat template with clear transitions. So let's take a look at what that will actually give me. And again, I will share these prompts with y'all. I have two chapters here, but now I'm going to ask it to please revise chapters 1 and 2 using this format. Now, if you take a look, it's going to show you begin with a clear, active event that immediately engages the protagonist. I want to construct a beat where the protagonist makes a decisive action, takes a decisive action. So I want everything to be dreamily active. So let's see what that does. She races to extinguish a fire at the forest's edge. So that is much better than her actually thinking about something that was bothering her. Here, it's putting her in action, shows her instincts kicking in. She's researching. So this provides meteor beats for me. So let's scroll down and take a look at these. Now, notice how much meatier these are, but they're also transitioning. We know that we want our beats to feed into each other. And that's what I'm doing with the way that I have my beats set up. I'm going to start with a hook and I'm going to end with a cliffhanger. So let's make sure it's a cliffhanger. There's a shadowy figure. Now, she glimpses it among the trees, leaving her wondering what's happening there. Now, she could give chase to that person and lose the individual. Now, before I ever generate any of this, I would need to go through them and make sure that my beats were solid enough. Now, let's look at Luke's. He senses a disturbance in the natural order, and so he is concerned for the forest's well being. He observes Sarah's investigation and he feels drawn to her. He's under the guise of a conservationalist. Let's see, he has an inner conflict between protecting his realm and revealing himself to Sarah. He uncovers signs of demonic influence and he's troubled by the gathering. Let's see. I'm okay with this. Now, if I wanted to write prose for this, now, of course, I would have already gone through and generated all 21 of my beats, but I could potentially tell the LLM right now to write beat one. I could even ask it to write beat two or beat 1 and 2 together, and it would write prose. Now, once I get all 21 of my chapters generated and I get them the way that I want them or my story beats, I'm going to generate inside of Story Engine's Story Bible. And I'm also going to generate the same beats later on inside a novel crafter. And I will also generate them here inside a ChatGPT4 and maybe even in Claude, just so that we can take a look at how each one of them will generate prose for us. So let's take a look. Now, I'm curious to see, since I have not used this specific beat enhancer, I have not used that before in my process here. I've used it on other beats just to test it when I was creating it. But now I'm curious to see what the system will do if I tell it to continue with chapters 3 and 4. Let's see what it does. Now, again, if I feel that the beats are not strong enough, I can ask it to flesh them out again. I can feed it my complex information again, just to ensure that I can get it to flesh it out. But let's see what it does. Let's see. She's unsettled. She returns to the fire station, determined to unravel the mystery. Now, here, rather than being deeply unsettled, I could have her give chase and lose him or the figure in the forest. And here she's teaming up with Leo. They come upon an old hidden part of the forest that feels unnaturally cold. She is fearless. Now she finds cryptic writing on the wall. I'm going to need to know what that writing is. So that is stuff that whenever I go to start generating, I'm going to need to flesh out fully. So let's see. Chapter 4 has Luke and the demon. Now, Sarah is also here. So let's see what happens. She's at her cabin on beat 10. Now, returning to the cabin at night, Sarah witnesses a shadowy, ritualistic gathering. Now, that's interesting. Now, what cabin is she at? Hers or the cabin that she found? I think it's the cabin that was mysterious. It's not her cabin, it's that mysterious area, I think. Let's see. Luke also is being drawn to the cabin and he decides to investigate, fearing for Sarah's life. Now, is it her cabin? Let's see. It's the outskirts of the forest. I don't think it's her cabin. So he has an unexpected encounter. She's near the cabin, and her presence is complicating his investigation. He's worried about her safety. Remember, he can sense the demon. He knows that there's some kind of demonic activity. He wants to warn Sarah, but can't reveal the masquerade. Now, as Sarah confronts Luke, he realizes that she's more involved. Now, I could beef that up or I could see what the LLM thinks. I would probably add more to this before I generate. Now, just so that I know that I have the whole story, I'm going to continue this. And let's continue with 5, 6. Now, one of the things that I like to do if I'm going to be generating inside of, say, store inside of pseudo write story engine, I like to set up everything. I like to ensure that I get my synopsis, my early concept. I like to generate some form of a style guide or a genre guide for Story Bible. I may not fill out all of the different cards within Story Bible, but I want to make sure that I have all that information that I can feed into my beat card. So I still want to know what kind of voice or tone that I want to give the story. And I'm still going to have to read all of these beats, even though I know the flow of the story. I know the backstory. I know what's at stake here. I know that Robert is starting the fires. He wants to flesh out the supers. I know that there's a demon here and what the demon is doing. And I know that Luke is trying really hard to protect the masquerade. So there's a lot of stuff going on in the story. So now we have 7 and 8 that we're going to want to do. What I want to do is go ahead and generate all 21 of these beats. And then once I am done doing that, I'm going to ask for the LLM to give me a summary chapter. I want chapter summaries of all 21 chapters once I get done with this. And then once I get that, I want to show y'all how I can then go in and ask for a tagline, a log line, a short and long blurb. I can also ask for a book description, and I can also ask for a book release. If I wanted to take it one step further, I could even ask for ad copy for social media like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and I can show all of that to you today in this specific session. And then later this evening, I'm actually going to record the next segment, which the second segment is going to kick off me actually taking the beats, putting them inside of Pseudo Story Engine, breaking everything up so that I can show you how I create everything within there. We'll go over the beats so that you can see how I flesh them out, and then I will generate. Then I'm gonna take those same beats. I don't know if we'll have time in this second video, but then I'm gonna turn around and take those same beats for a couple of the chapters, and I will generate within Novel Crafter and Claude and in ChatGPT4, just so that we can compare them all. So let's see what 7-8 does. Now, I am a little curious as to the difference of the immediacy of what Claude will provide versus maybe the more descriptive nature and how ChatGPT4 adheres tighter to your beats than what Claude does. So I'm curious to see what that'll do. And then I'm probably going to generate inside of Pseudo Wright's Story Bible. I will generate with GPT-4, which is actually the more expensive model. And then in Novel Crafter, I think I'm going to use Turbo in Novel Crafter so that we can get the difference of the different LLMs. Now, the two that should be similar in nature will be Story Bible, since I'm using Most Accurate, which is going to be GPT-4 and my Chat GPT-4, those two should generate similar, but because I'm generating the story again, even with the same beats, you can end up with story details that are vastly different. So we'll compare that too. So let's see, 8 and with 7, it's Tuesday. We are back at the forest. We're back at the ritual site. She witnesses a supernatural manifestation. I don't know what that looks like yet, so that I will need to do a little bit more digging in before we actually generate later. And she encounters the demon disguised as a charming stranger. That could be interesting. And Luke, being a super, can probably see through maybe the glamour that the demon has because Luke has his own glamour. So that could be interesting. So again, Luke feels that disturbance. He rushes in to find Sarah. scared, so he becomes protective. Now, one thing that I want to state here is that because this is a romance, I want to make sure that I am noting different areas for my characters to begin to have that budding love or that sexual tension that might come with a romance. And I tend to like to put that off a little bit because I don't want the LLM to make them suddenly fall in love in the first chapter, because this is not insta love. So let's do chapter 9 and 10. And I am going to tell it to make sure to leave room for Sarah and Luke. We'll do Sarah's and Luke's budding romance. Let the demon create chaos, and Robert should create waves. Also, use markers, place markers for romance. Let's see, let's use markers for, we'll say, budding romance. And for paranormal activity and for combat slash fight scenes. Now, why do I do that? Because that is really good indication for me whenever I'm looking at my beats to know, okay, I need to add a little bit more here for romance, or maybe I need to add more here for that paranormal activity, or if there is a combat fight scene, I really need to focus on that. Now, look at how thin these are beginning to get again. One of the things that I might do is go ahead and grab my prompt again, and I'm going to tell it to redo them. I'm going to ask it to redo chapter 9 and 10. But I want to keep this still active. So I'm going to state that here down at the bottom. So I'm telling it, note for all chapters, do this as well. Make sure to leave room for Sarah and Luke's budding romance. So let's see, it is still generating number 10. So notice how it's giving me the combat fight scene, the paranormal activity, the budding romance. That way, at a quick glance, I can say, okay, I need to focus on my beats in this area for this, or I need to pay attention. There might be an area in here where I might be able to add additional content. Now, does it mean that I have to keep paranormal activity there? No, it doesn't. But this kind of helps me see. Now, say you're writing something with space aliens and you want to have the differences between the being on Earth and being in space. You can ask for placeholders that identify when your characters are in space or when they're on Earth. So it's just a quick way for you to be able to see that at a quick glance. Now I am going to go back up and I'm going to grab one of my earlier prompts, which was continue with chapter XYZ. So I know that it should be giving me 9 and 10 again. So it's going to be 11 and 12 when the next one starts. So let's take a look. Sarah is accompanied by Luke and investigates the new fire site. So this gives me more information. It gives me something physically that I can look at. Now, the paranormal activity, there's an intricate pattern of symbols near the fire's origin that we can actually see. It's suggesting a dark ritual. Now, to Sarah's looking at it thinking, oh, okay, there's somebody that's doing some type of ritualistic thing here, but it holds a completely different meaning to her than it would to Luke, because Luke is a super and he understands how demonic possession and other supers can interact in the human world. So I think that adds a nice layer. So notice how these are stronger beats. Now, here it does talk about how he hesitates to share a particular truth about the symbols. Now, unless we're in his head, we're in Sarah's head. Now, we need to show his reluctance because remember, we're not in his head, we're in Sarah's. Sarah can only infer that he is trying to hide partial truths. That might be where we might ask later on for the LLM to give some dialogue. And that's a really cool way to do it, to state maybe if you like dialogue, you can ask the LLM to follow the guidelines given, and in addition, provide some dialogue that fits the needs of the beat. Now, we can definitely do that. And I do like it when I have some dialogue in there because then I get to know the character, or I can put in my own dialogue. And the LLM seems to respond really well to dialogue, by the way. So if you're an individual who likes to go through your beats and add in dialogue that you think would be really cool for the characters, that is a good way for the LLM to get a feel for your character. So here again, let's see. The forest reacts violently, revealing the presence of the demon who confronts the trio. So the trio is going to be Robert, Sarah, and Luke, and taunts them with a cryptic threat, hinting at a larger plan for Willow Creek. Now, I don't know what that is, but me as a writer, I'm going to have to think about that and flesh that out before I ever hit generate. So even though you can get it to give you beefier beats, remember, it is still just a predictive indexing program. Does it do well? Yeah, it does great. But as a writer, you're the one that has to fill in those areas that's ambiguous. If there's a mystery note, what's on the note? Don't leave that up to the LLM. It's your job to figure out what's on the note so that you can guide the LLM. If there's a mystery figure, then it is up to you to decide what that mystery figure is doing, what that mystery figure represents, because it is your story. So make sure that you are paying attention to that and you're making changes where they need to be. So now we're going to do 13 and 14. So the meeting concludes. A sudden, sinister laugh echoes through the forest, hinting at the demon's awareness of their plan. So it sounds like here in this chapter, Sarah, Luke, and Robert are coming up with a plan, but then all of a sudden you know that the demon has been listening and you don't know to what end. So that's interesting. Now, we do have here they encounter supernatural traps set by the demon, testing their resolve. What kind of traps? I don't know, but I'm not going to leave the LLM to come up with those traps. I'm going to have to maybe go back and forth with the LLM in a little bit and decide what kind of traps. Is there a pit with spikes in it? Are there poisonous darts? What kind of traps are there? Is there a snare that lifts them up by the leg? Is there some kind of a net? Or is it some type of a fairy circle or magical circle that has been designed to capture somebody and hold them in there? I don't know. So I have to do some thinking on how I want to do that. Now, remember we added that we wanted some dialogue, and here we have it's a warding spell. Here have stay close. I've been expecting you. He taunts, his voice chilling. So again, we know that it will give us some of that dialogue, which sometimes if you have dialogue with subtext, it helps because it enables you to use your dialogue to show the action as well. Here we have the budding romance. I won't let anything happen to you, where Luke is telling Sarah this. It isn't over, he hisses. So the demon is upset because maybe what he's trying to do just, you know, ends up thwarting what it is that he's wanting to do. So again, think about your story. I know that I'm going through these rather quickly, but I do like to do my chapters this way, and then I like to go through the beats and make sure that there aren't things that I need to change. And when I go through my beats, I will go through and ask questions. If there's a mystery note, I'll ask what kind of mystery note, what's in the note, could the note have XYZ? If so, how does that impact my storyline? So those are the kind of conversations I have with the LLM. So we are on 13 and we are doing 13, 14. So this is 15, 16. Now, one thing I want to point out, if I were to write a series and I wanted to use a new couple, then I'd say right around chapter 18 in the next set, if I were to have a second book planned for Willow Creek, I might take Robert, who has been redeemed, and I might give him his happy ever after. Now, I would have to look at Robert's age, and I can still change that now, but I'm going to go ahead and write a cameo in for Robert to show y'all how, if you want to write a second book in your series, you can actually write in a cameo for your characters to ensure that you are kicking off the next story. Now, that is only if you want to write from a new couple's perspective. Now, if I wanted to, I could also write a second book, but still using Sarah and Luke, and maybe they have to tackle a new threat. So I could do it either way, but I want to show y'all how to do the cameo, so I am going to write a cameo in there for Robert. Now, does that mean that I can't go in and create something for Luke and Sarah later on? No, I can definitely do that if I want to. Now, notice how it did not finish my beat 8 for chapter 14. I'm just going to hit continue, but before I do that, I'm going to copy what I have here and then hit continue, and then it should finish out my beat 8. I know it's moving a little bit slow today, so maybe there's a lot of users on it today. Then we have the demon spouting off, "You will not defeat me," he roars, his voice laced with fury. So again, there are things in there that I would change as an author. And let's see, and then he also hisses, "This isn't the end." And then he vanishes into the air. A lot of things going on here. Let's see, we have chapter 14. We're doing, so we have 13, 14, we have 15, 16. So let's do those. But once we go into the next set, which is going to be 17, 18. I'm going to go ahead and generate those two. But when I go to 19 and 20, I'm going to go ahead and remind it that the ending is coming up and that I'm going to need a cameo. So let's see. Beat 3. On the way, Luke expresses his concern for Sarah's safety. Be careful. He won't give up easily. So again, we now know that the masquerade has been shattered for her, and how she reacts to it is something that I will need to write into the beats into some of the prior chapters because she shouldn't just immediately think, oh, okay, great. Now I know that supers are here. She should freak out a little bit. And maybe she thinks that there's been something off all along. But at the same time, I need for her to feel that her world has been turned upside down because what she thought her life was is something completely different. Same thing with Robert. Robert finding out that he has super blood in him, that is going to be a huge turning point for him. So let's see. On beat 3 of Luke's, we have, did I see an amulet, a mysterious amulet? And it has been waiting for somebody. So we know that this is 16. We're going to do 17 and 18 here shortly. So I'm going to hit continue because I want to see what this is, where this is going. Let's see. Luke, Sarah, and Robert arrive at home, the home of a mysterious and potential chosen one. So I don't know who the chosen one is. So do I want a chosen one or do I want to change that later? They meet the resident, an elderly figure with an air of ancient knowledge. Now, that could be any of our static characters. Now, that could be the librarian. I like the old guy. He would be cool to have here. I think he was about 70 years old or something. He would be a really cool one to put here. And I can add that in myself. Let's see. The elder reveals a hidden artifact, and man, does the LLM want to have artifacts, mysterious people, mysterious figures, mystery notes. And because this is a Willow Creek and it's a pun on all the things that are LL, the LLM generates regularly, some of this stuff I will leave in there and just find a way to weave it into the story. Because again, Willow Creek was created because of the things that the LLM says frequently, and it's us as authors finding a way to weave it into the story just because we can, because we're authors. So I'm curious to see what everybody else does with their Willow Creeks, with their we're in this together and let's do this, and the mystery notes, the mystery figures or the hidden figures. So I'm curious to see what everybody's going to do with those, with the artifacts, the relics, the mystery map. So I want to see what everybody will do with those specific items. Okay, we're on 17 and 18. And let's see, it's starting. We have to act now. Let's see, it's responding. This could be our advantage. No matter what happens, we're in this together. Yes. Again, if you use LLMs much, you know that is so classic LLM for a romance story. So, my challenge to you is to find a way to use that line at least once inside of your book if you're going to do a Willow Creek tribute. Again, it's all those things that we as authors know that if we see it in one of our Willow Creek books, we found a way to make it fit. So maybe we'll even have some kind of Willow Creek bingo that if you go through and find specific things on it, that maybe I'll gift a book or something or a template book or something to people when they actually get the bingo right. So I'll have to get with Lynn and Nicole and Cece and see what we can come up with for a bingo or something, because that would be cool. We'll call it the Willow Creek Bingo. So let's see, 17 and 18. Let's go ahead and do those. And I'm going to fill in 1920. So let's do 19. and 20. Now, here I am going to tell the LLM, note, chapter 21 is the end of Sarah and Luke's. And I can make this a happy for now or happy ever after. I can make it an HEA, happy ever after, or happy for now ending. And it should also kick off a new mystery for the town of Willow Creek with a cameo of Robert and a young woman found in the forest with no memory of who she is or where she came from. And that's all that I'm going to give the LLM. And then I'm going to decide who she is. Now, if she is she a Nephilim? Is she part angel? Is she a human who has had her memory erased? Is she some form of an elemental? I don't know, but I definitely want to know more about her. Is she an undine? Is she some type of a forest nymph or a sprite? Or is she maybe a tree imp that can shift between human and tree? That's cool. I like that. We'll say that Luke tells Sarah that the young woman is a super and smells ancient. So that could be interesting. And we have 18. Now I have 19 and 20. And then I'm going to do 21. Now, if I wanted to, I could go ahead and get just a brief premise for book 2 if I want to, which I'll probably go ahead and do that just so that I have a starting point for book 2. And again, I don't know what the young lady's name is. She has amnesia. So that'll be something interesting to look into. Now, the very last chapter is going to be 21. And again, I'm going to remind the LLM that 21 is going to give me that last chapter. And I'm going to remind it again. Continue with chapter 21. And I'm going to remind it, remember this. So right now I am on chapter 20. And again, I have to go through all of these. So in my second recording that I'm going to actually do tonight, because I want to get all of the videos out at once so that you guys don't have to wait for these. But because people were asking about Willow Creek, I went ahead and decided to throw this in there since there are more people coming into Willow Creek so that I can join the fun of Willow Creek as well. So let's see what's going on here. Another super. So Robert is suspicious. Let's see. Sarah states firmly Okay, so let's see what happens. Luke, feeling a strange presence at the forest's edge, leads Sarah to investigate. Something's not right. They find a young woman. So here the story starts out with the young woman. So we have one story ending, and the next story is already starting off in chapter 20. So that's good because Luke can sense the girl, and he's telling her she's like the forest, old and wise. So we can definitely make some changes here. And we can have the girls asking, "Do you know me?" And he's saying to Sarah that she is part of Willow Creek's essence. So that kind of leads or opens the door for the next story. So I'm going to hit continue to generate because it didn't finish the beat. And then we are going to finish with chapter 21. Now, there's a cryptic message that arrives hinting at a new mystery. Now, with that happening, now she's here and he's saying that she's old. Now, what if she disappears and they don't know where she has gone? And then maybe in the next book, Robert is searching for her. And that could be a good way to kick that off. So continue with chapter 1, following the guidelines. And for this chapter, have the young woman disappear, fade out, or transform into something. Now, I want Sarah to wonder if what she saw was real. So let's see how that unfolds. And I just hit the cap. So I've reached the current usage. So I can't, right now it is 5:41 my time. I can't do anything until 6:28 my time. So I am going to end this video right here, and then I will pick it up in the next video to show y'all what the end of chapter 21 looks like. And then we will start to flesh out those beats. So, as I said, this is a really good point area to stop the video. Again, I will come back online at 6:28, which is a little over about 45 minutes from now. Gives me time to eat and before I jump back on. So, I want to thank y'all for watching and stay tuned for the second part. And please, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe, ring that bell, set up your notifications, and leave a comment if there's something that you're unsure of or some type of video that you would like to see us do. Again, thank you for watching. Miracle signing out. I'll see you in a bit.